Hi everyone, my name is Jarek from Genius Gecko and welcome to another video where we'll be talking about roadmap and about advanced roadmap to be precise. If you haven't checked my last videos, please do so. I think they will be very helpful and insightful for you. In this video, we're gonna progress through advanced roadmap features, and we're gonna talk about the essence of the tool, so the planning. How do we do the planning for waterfall approach? How do we do the planning for agile approach? Please remember that we are offering consultations, trainings, and implementation. We have very good and tested implementation process. So if you have any questions, problem, if you want to introduce the tool to your organization, or if you just want to increase adoption of the tool in your organization, we're here to help. Okay, so let's jump right into the feature discussion. Let's start with talking about how can we create a plan for waterfall approach here, as in my view it is a little bit easier. So usually when we have waterfall approach, we want to plan the tasks on the timeline, create them with dependencies, and see how changes in a plan made on one task will impact the other tasks, right? So let's start with simple planning tasks on the timeline. You can see that I have over here Epic with two tasks links to it, and they are located on the timeline, right? So I can move them around, and you can see that when when I hover over the task, I can grab it by the start and move it. So it basically changes the start and end date of the task. I cannot change the end date of the task, so basically it is always it always keeps its length, right? So I can just move it around. Okay, but why is it working like that? And what if I want to change the length of a task? Well, this is behaving like that because at the moment on the task level, only start date is set and end date is empty, or actually the due date, because due date is the field that we're using to determine the end date of a task. Due date is empty. So advanced roadmaps just considers that by default this task will last for 1 month. So let's click on this task just to confirm it, just to be sure. And exactly that. So we have start date and we have due date that is empty. We will set this in a moment, so you can see how it will impact our timeline. But before we will do that, I would like to show you something else, and that is the change log. So I will switch back to our plan view, and you can see that after I changed the task, something changed over here. So I will for now just discard selected changes. You will see that by default this review changes button is grayed out, and basically it switches to being active when we change something in our plan. So I will move this task. You can see that now this button is active. You can click on this and see the changes that were made in our plan. So basically, when we change something in our plan in advanced roadmaps, it does not get automatically reflected on Jira issue level. So we change the start date over here. It is not saved right away on our Jira issue. We need to confirm it over here. Now this is really helpful feature because you can play around with your plan without changing dozens or maybe even hundreds of issues. See how your changes impact other things, whether this is something you want to go on with or not, and then either approve those changes or discard them, as I did just a moment before. So I will save these changes. Yep, now you will see that my task is starting on the 11th of July. Let's go back to it was 4th earlier. I will refresh the page, and now 11. So the change was reflected on our issue. Okay, but now what happens if we'll actually set the end date over here? Let's set something that is pretty close to our start date. something like that. So it should be more or less 4 days. We'll switch back to our plan, refresh the page, and you will see that now not only the task is shorter, so it's over here, yeah, you can edit both the start date and end date. So basically, when the start and due date actually is set on the task level, you can modify both of them. This means that you can move the task around, but also change its duration. So this is important. If the end date won't be there, you basically will have always task with the same duration, based on the start date. So there will be start date and 1 month duration of the task. Now let's have a look at how the parent task start and end date, so in this case the epic, behaves in relation to the children start and end date. So you can see that if I move this task around, the second one, I will move it into the future. The parent is actually expanding to accommodate for the change in the end date of a children task. So you will see that it either shortens or is getting longer. On the other hand, if I move this task to start earlier than the start date of the epic, it is not that the advanced roadmaps is not changing the start date of the epic. Why is that? Where you may already have figured this one out. This is because our epic has start date set on issue level, but no due date. So the due date is being set elastically depending on what is the end date of the children, while the start date is, so to say, set in stone. Now, if you want to have really flexible start and end date of an epic, you would just remove the start and end date on this level, and then you would be able to, it would just adapt to whatever the start date and end date of the children are. So let's just do that. Let's switch back to our plan, refresh it, and you will see that whatever the change I'll do on the issue level will be changed on the epic level, right? So now epic is dynamically adjusting to the changes on the children level. On the other hand, if I would set the start and end date of the epic, it wouldn't be updated. It would just inform me over here that some children are, for example, having end date later than the end date of the epic. So we can also have a quick look at this one. Yeah, let's have a check. So August, yeah, let's set it to let's say 22nd August as the end date of the epic. So I've edited the epic. You can see that by hovering I see both the start and end date of the epic, and over here we can see that there is a warning on the epic level. Yeah, this issue is okay, but children has warning, and on the children level we'll see information that, hey, this issue starts before the parent. So if we actually move it so that it overlaps the parent, now only one warning will remain. If I expand, it's none. So yeah, basically you need to be mindful whether you are doing bottom-up planning, so the stories are driving force for when the epic starts and ends, or you're doing top-down planning where you are setting the start and end date of the epic first, and then all the stories within this epic or within this element, because this might not be epic, this might be feature or some other work breakdown structure element. But in this case, you're setting the start and end date of this on this element, and all the lower level elements have to fit within it. One important thing, I've touched on the review changes. If there are some changes that you did over here in Advanced Roadmap that are not accepted, and then you'll go into the issue change, for example, start and end date over there, these changes will not be reflected over here even after you refresh the screen. You actually need to have it synced with Jira so that all the changes are visible over here. Okay, let's talk a bit about dependencies again. So because they are essential when we're doing waterfall planning, right? You want to move one task and see how it impacts other tasks that are dependent on it. So obviously we can create dependency between two tasks, and we can start moving them around. So I will save those changes into Jira. And when we do that, we can switch to the dependency report and see what is the status of dependency between those two tasks. So you can see that over here there is this dependency I created, and it's actually not being respected because this task starts 10 days before this one ends. So there is an indication that something is not right here. We should probably do the replanning. Sadly, Advanced Roadmap does not automatically push these tasks into the future. So if we'll have the situation when, due to the changes on one task, other would have to be replanned, we'll have to do this either manually, this won't be done automatically. We could use also auto schedule feature, but this is something we won't be touching on now. We'll probably do separate video about this one. So this is important that when we're doing the waterfall for planning, we basically need to switch between this timeline view and the dependency reports to monitor whether we're having problems somewhere and manually adapt our plan according to whatever has to be done to fix these problems. Okay, let's talk now about Agile planning, as this is, I think, more interesting part of advanced roadmaps. So to cover that, we'll actually go into view settings and we'll do the grouping of tasks. So we will do the grouping by the team. We could do this by other things, but I think that to present our point or to make my point, the teams will be the best. So now you can see that I have additional level of, let's call it structure. So basically all the tasks assigned to specific teams are grouped in the swim lanes of these teams. To define the teams, you can do it multiple ways. The simplest is to go to view shared teams, and over here you can just create new teams. New team. All these teams that we create over here will be visible in our plans. So I have team births here. I can add a person. I have at the moment 3 teams. Only 2 of them have users assigned to them. So let's go back to the plan. When I grouped by teams, as I mentioned, we have now separate swim lanes for the teams. And if we go to the fields, you can see that over here, I can reassign the tasks to different teams. So here, I have team Bisons. I could switch to other ones that I have created. What is important is that you can see that over here, I have team Bears. But if we look at the teams, this epic is assigned to team Bisons. Why is it under team Bears? Well, this is because the stories within this epic are assigned to team Bears. So basically, planning is done on the story level. Hence, these elements are shown in the team Bears section, despite the fact that the higher level element, the parent of these stories, the epic, is assigned to team Bisons. This, I'm not sure if that should happen. I think that in general, if we are assigning stories to teams, we should not really assign epics to anything. But anyway, this is just for you to know. This can be a bit confusing, so it's worth knowing that. Okay, let's collapse some of these fields. I do not need everything here. Now, when these team swim lanes were added, something interesting over here happened. So you can see over here that I have on my timeline elements representing the sprints. These sprints are based on the boards that I have. And on the sprints that are assigned to the tasks assigned to this team, right? So you can see that I have over here P1 sprint 5 and P2 sprint 1. This is because the tasks assigned to this team are assigned to this particular sprints. So we'll cover that more in depth in a moment. So let's look at these elements over here. So you can see that if I click on them, I have some details about the sprints. So I have the information about how many story points are available, what is the capacity of a team in the sprint, so how many story points we can assign, start, end date, and some other details. For this sprint, if I click, we will see more detailed information about basically the status of the sprint. So we'll see information about what is the status of the tasks in the sprint, but also how many story points out of 30 that are the capacity of these teams are allocated. So percentage value 7% full at the moment. When we will be assigning, or when we'll keep assigning stories to the sprints, stories with story points, you'll see that the bar over here increases and that team or that sprint gets filled. So over here I have sprint, this is in the past, but you can see that this is basically in the red. The bar here is red. This is because we over allocated the sprint. So we know that basically, we've signed up for more than we can actually deliver. The story points for each sprint can be edited. So let's say that in this sprint, we'll be able to deliver only 20 story points because, for example, part of my team is on holidays, has time off. So I can click on this. You'll see that I have indication here. This change is not reflected in Jira. This is the information that we'll get when we hover over this. But we see over here that, we have only now 20 story points to allocate. If we exceed this number, we'll get red like over here. Okay, so let's actually assign some stories to the sprint. So this sprint is over allocated. Let's change that. So let's say that this is 13 story points, quite a lot. We will reassign it to sprint 3. Yep, and now, we're green in both of the sprints. This looks really, really good. So we fixed already one of our problems, and now if you click on the sprint 3, we'll see that 13 out of 20 story points is over allocated. It looks good. Over here we have some stories that are not assigned to any sprint. So let's do that too. And nothing changed over here. So this story did not fit into the sprint. You've seen that when I reassigned this story, it actually moved on the timeline to cover for this sprint, but this did not. Why? Because this story had a start date set on the issue level. If I click on this issue, you'll see that there is a start date over here, and because of that, advanced roadmap did not move it on the timeline to the sprint. So basically the start date and end date for advanced roadmaps are more important than the start and end date of a sprint to which the story is assigned. So I will remove this date. Let's actually sync everything. And now you can see that this moved into the sprint 3. And now if I'll keep changing this, it will be moving on the timeline as we would expect it to move. This already provides us quite a lot of additional features compared to what standard Jira does. And the main advantage of this advanced roadmap is that we can plan for different teams at the same moment while being aware of dependencies between tasks assigned to different teams. So it helps us a lot. I'm showing this all just on one team because it's a bit easier to present, but there could be dependencies between tasks assigned to different teams. Okay, what else is really important over here? My setup is, I wouldn't say specific. I think that a lot of instances have setup like that, but I have separate board for each Jira project. So basically these P1 sprints are on the board that covers the P1 project, right? While separate board is for P2. So I will quickly try to find some task that is from the project P2. Let's close this one. Over here, for example. Yeah, so P2. Now, the tricky part is what would happen if I would assign it, for example, to Team Bisons. It appears in Team Bisons as expected. But now I will assign it to the sprint that is from different project, that is on a board from different project, that this issue, right? So I will assign to sprint 1. I will review and save the changes. And now I will go over here. Let's see, the sprint is P1. So it looks like it's the sprint from the other board, from the other project. And this is because when we click over here into the backlog, the advanced roadmap basically created the sprint with exactly the same name. So now we have a P1 sprint in P2 in project 2, but sprint with the same name, P1 in project 1. So this is something to keep in mind, because if you'll just be reassigning the task without looking where they are, it might kind of create a mess in your project on your board. It will just keep on creating new sprints. Yeah, so this was the initial sprint. So yeah, this is something to keep in mind. If you'll have a problems with creating a setup that would be flexible enough, but at the same time wouldn't be too messy, feel free to reach to us. We have quite a lot of experience. We've seen a lot of different setups. We know what can work pretty well and what usually doesn't. So that will be it for this video. In our next video, we're going to continue the topic of planning, or there are some other features, interesting ones that we can cover. Please remember that we're providing trainings, consultation sessions, and we have very good implementation process. So if you have any problems, questions, doubts whether the tool is right for you or not, let us know. We'll do our best to help. Thanks for today and take care.